17-year-old dropout, 40 million euro from chat rooms, 14 billion euro from breaking telecom cartels, zero fucks given. Meet Xavier Niel, the high school dropout who turned French loneliness into a fortune, then declared war on France's telecom oligopoly. From adult chat services on clunky government terminals to burying enough fiber optic cable to circle Earth 37 times, this is how one man slashed French internet bills in half while building an empire. While Silicon Valley pioneers were still tinkering in their garages, 17-year-old Xavier Niel had already cracked the code on monetizing human connection. The year was 1984, and France's state-owned telecom had unwittingly created the perfect playground for a teenage entrepreneur, Minitel. This clunky beige terminal, part computer, part telephone, sat in millions of French homes, offering rudimentary online services before the internet existed. Most businessmen saw limited government utility, Niel saw gold. He knew loneliness sells. Launching Minitel Rose, pink Minitel services, Niel created text-based chat rooms where users could flirt, fantasize, and connect, all while the meter ran on premium rates. Each 3615 code dialed transferred francs directly from users to service operators like Niel. Users paid by the minute through their phone bills. France Telecom took a cut, then transferred the rest to service providers. A typical chat session might cost 30 francs per hour, about 12 euro in today's money. Multiply this by thousands of users chatting for hours each night, and the math might become staggering. By 1994, Niel's company, aptly named Medi-at Group, generated 40 million euro annually from these text-based interactions. While America's tech icons were struggling to monetize early internet services, this French teenager had built an empire on digital desire. What made Minitel remarkable wasn't just its commercial success, peaking at 25 million users across 9 million terminals, but what it taught Niel about human behavior. Users weren't paying for technology, they were paying for connection, for escape, for something they couldn't get elsewhere. More critically, Minitel taught Niel that accessibility drives adoption. France Telecom had distributed terminals for free, removing the barrier to entry. This principle, eliminate obstacles, then monetize usage, would become Niel's signature strategy 2 decades later when he upended France's telecom market. France Telecom executives had comfortable arrangements in 2002. Broadband internet was expensive, contracts were lengthy, and profit margins were obscene. Orange and SFR controlled the market, charging upwards of 50 euro monthly for basic DSL service. Then Xavier Niel crashed their party. His company, Iliad, launched a broadband service called Free with a proposition so radical it seemed financially suicidal. 29.99 euro monthly for unlimited high-speed internet. No contract, no hidden fees, no equipment costs. How do you compete with something called free? Even saying your competitor's name meant admitting customers had a cheaper option. The telecom establishment scoffed. Orange's CEO dismissed Niel as a pirate in an industry newspaper. While competitors built proprietary systems requiring expensive equipment, Free shipped simplified routers called Freebox that handled everything: internet, television, and eventually phone service. By 2004, Free had bundled VoIP calling at no extra cost, forcing the entire industry to unbundle their overpriced services. The European Union's 2002-22 EC directive requiring incumbent carriers to open their infrastructure to competitors became Niel's secret weapon. Orange had spent billions building France's copper network, now Niel could use it for pennies on the euro. He didn't need to build an entire national infrastructure, he just needed to rent what already existed. Traditional telecoms had built business models assuming infrastructure costs created natural monopolies. Niel exploited the gap between this assumption and the new regulatory reality. By 2005, Free had signed up 1 million subscribers. More telling was what happened to its competitors. Prices dropped across the board, contracts shortened, and triple play bundles, internet, phone, TV, became standard. What France's telecom CEOs failed to understand was that Niel wasn't just competing on price, he was redefining the relationship between providers and customers. Traditional telecoms viewed subscribers as assets to be milked for maximum revenue. Niel viewed them as partners in dismantling an entrenched system. The strategy worked. While Orange and SFR scrambled to defend their premium pricing from marketing campaigns about quality and reliability, Free kept signing up thousands of new customers daily. France went from having some of Europe's most expensive broadband to some of its most affordable. On January 10, 2012, Xavier Niel took the stage at Pavilion Cambron Capucinas and unveiled what they'd feared for years: free mobile. €19.99 per month. No contract, unlimited calls, texts, and data. France's mobile market, dominated by Orange, SFR, and Bouygues, had maintained some of Europe's highest prices for years. The average plan cost €45 monthly with a mandatory 24-month contract. Cancellation penalties could exceed €500. Niel didn't just undercut them, he obliterated their business model. What made this attack particularly deadly was timing. The incumbents had just invested billions in 4G infrastructure, betting on premium pricing to recoup costs. Now, Free Mobile threatened to turn those investments into stranded assets before they generated €1 in return. Stock markets reacted instantly. France Telecom Orange shares dropped 13% that day. SFR's parent company Vivendi fell 10%. Bouygues Telecom crashed 13.5%. Collectively, €8 billion in market cap vanished within hours. While competitors had spent years building comprehensive networks with 95% plus coverage, Free Mobile launched with just 55% native coverage. For the rest, Niel had negotiated a roaming agreement with Orange, paying wholesale rates to use their infrastructure while charging retail prices that undercut Orange itself. Free Mobile gained 5 million subscribers within 18 months, nearly 10% market share. The industry's average revenue per user, ARPU, plummeted 25% by 2014. Thousands of telecom workers lost jobs as rivals slashed costs. Niel had targeted what he called contract hostages, users trapped in long-term plans they couldn't afford to break. What terrified incumbents most wasn't Free's pricing, but what it revealed about their own margins. French mobile plans had been generating profits exceeding 200%. Free Mobile still made money at €19.99, exposing the cartel-like pricing that had prevailed for decades. By 2015, every French carrier offered no contract options, prices had fallen across all segments, mobile data usage exploded as artificial caps disappeared. France went from having Europe's most restrictive mobile market to its most consumer-friendly in just 3 years. The bloodbath Niel initiated would permanently alter France's digital landscape, and he was just getting started. In 2016, Free introduced zero rating for services like Netflix and Deezer, exempting them from data caps. This forced competitors to either match the offering or watch subscribers leave. Before zero rating, the average French mobile user consumed 2 gigabytes monthly. By 2017, Free users averaged 9.7 gigabytes. This explosion in usage transformed France's digital habits, making video streaming commonplace years before other European markets. Well, the EU eventually banned zero rating in 2017, but by then, let's just say Free had already captured millions of heavy data users. Niel had extracted maximum value from the policy before its elimination. In the same year, while Silicon Valley fretted about France's anti-business reputation, Niel quietly spent €250 million transforming a 1920 train depot into Station F, Europe's largest startup campus. The 34,000 square meter facility in Paris's 13th arrondissement was symbolic. Niel deliberately chose a historical industrial site rather than building a gleaming glass tower. The message was clear: France's future would grow from its past, not replace it. Station F's business model diverged sharply from American accelerators. While Y Combinator takes equity stakes in startups, Station F operates primarily as a real estate play with a talent identification component. Startups pay rent starting €195 monthly per desk and get access to investors, mentors, and services. This approach proved surprisingly effective. In 2025, Station F had housed over 1,500 startups with a combined valuation of €3.2 billion. Notable alumni include Doctolib, now valued at €5 billion, and Payfit, €1.1 billion, both using Iliad's cloud infrastructure. What American observers missed was that Station F wasn't charity. Oh no, it was a talent pipeline for Niel's expanding empire. The best engineers got recruited to Iliad, promising startups gained access to Niel's venture fund, and all participants became potential customers for Iliad's business services. The campus itself reflected Niel's philosophy: accessible luxury. The food court featured Michelin-starred chefs serving meals at affordable prices, offices, meeting rooms combined industrial chic with practical technology. Everything signaled the same message: excellence without extravagance. Station F also rejected Silicon Valley's move fast and break things ethos in favor of what Niel called building defensible businesses. Station F companies showed lower failure rates and longer runaways than other American counterparts. Today, Xavier Niel's net worth reached 10 billion euros, according to Forbes, making him one of Europe's wealthiest tech entrepreneurs. Yet, even in France, his face recognition remains low. This anonymity grants him operational advantages his more famous counterparts lack. While public billionaires face scrutiny with every acquisition, Niel quietly purchased a 17% stake in Le Monde, France's newspaper of record, 50% of Monaco Telecom, and significant positions in over 400 startups without triggering media frenzies. His power thrives in silence. No tweets, no scandals, just leverage. This approach extends to political influence. Niel maintains relationships across France's political spectrum. When Emmanuel Macron launched his presidential campaign in 2017, Niel neither endorsed nor opposed him publicly, despite widespread knowledge of their connection. Niel's stealth extends to philanthropy. His 42 coding school, offering free software education to thousands, operates without naming rights. Most students don't recognize that the school's unusual pedagogy, no teachers, no diplomas, 24/7 operation, reflects Niel's own autodidactic background. Niel's ghost-like approach represents a direct challenge to Silicon Valley's cult of personality. While American tech founders build personal brands as insurance against board removal, Niel has made himself nearly irreplaceable through anonymity. Recently, Xavier Niel has placed a 20 billion euro bet on technology first developed in 1970s fiber optic cable. At the start of 2025, Free's fiber network covered 80% of France, over 30 million homes. Iliad's 2030 goal of 100% coverage would make France the world's first major economy with universal fiber access. This fiber fixation makes Niel an outlier among telecom billionaires. AT&T's CEO called fiber yesterday's technology in 2023. Deutsche Telekom focused investments on 5G+, yet Niel continued trenching cables across France with almost religious devotion. Xavier Niel's unlikely path from teenage Minitel hustler to telecom titan isn't just a business story. It's a masterclass in strategic patience. Niel proved you don't need to be first or the loudest, you just need to be right and stubborn. The man who started by selling digital connection in its crudest form ended up democratizing it in its most advanced form. That's not disruption, that's completion of the circle. What do you think? Should American telecoms follow Niel's no-contract philosophy? And could his Station F model work outside of France? Drop your comments below. Subscribe for more videos, it really helps the channel grow. Thanks for watching.